In the morning hush of the park, a little girl walked up to the bench. Her voice came out quiet, almost dissolving into the city's noise. "Excuse me, could you—" Max heard her and understood that something was about to happen, something he usually turned away from. She stood a couple steps from him, skinny, with light-colored braids. She wore jeans with worn knees and a faded t-shirt that had clearly been washed way too many times. "I'm not asking for money," she added quickly. "I need food for my brother. He's 4, and he—" She stopped, swallowed. Her thin fingers locked together over her stomach. She carried herself with this kind of dignity, like she wasn't begging, like she was asking for something she had a right to. Max set his sports bottle down on the bench. 7 miles of running usually cleared his head, but today, like yesterday, it was nothing but bleak chaos in there. The iPhone in his pocket buzzed on silent. A penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and a river view was waiting for him with empty rooms. His Tesla sat in the lot, shiny and useless to anyone. Last night he'd had dinner with Victoria, a 30-year-old marketing manager from a competing company. For 2 hours she talked about her NFT project, crypto, and personal branding. When the check came, she smiled. "Let's split it. I'm all about equality." Max paid for it himself. Not out of politeness, because he didn't care. What difference did it make if you went home alone and fell asleep under the bluish glow of a TV that was on just for noise? "How old are you?" he asked. 9. "Where are your parents?" The girl stayed silent, and there were more answers in that silence than in any words. Max had seen kids like this in charity news segments. He'd even sent money a few times, and then forgotten about it until the next December. But now this girl was standing right in front of him, alive, and she smelled like simple, cheap soap. Max knew that smell. He'd grown up in a family where every cent got counted. "What's your name?" "My name's Nicole." "Nicole," Max repeated, and for some reason the name felt familiar. "Okay, where's your brother?" "At home. He can't walk far, She trailed off again, but Max already understood. The kid was truly hungry. So hungry he didn't have the strength to walk. And this little girl had come here alone, to the fountain in the park, to ask a stranger for food. Max looked around. Early morning, not many people. Cameras hung from every pole, but Nicole looked at him with gray eyes that held not a drop of manipulation, only a kind of exhaustion that didn't belong in a 9-year-old's eyes. "Where do you live?" "Not far. About 30 minutes by bus." He pulled out his phone, turned on the camera, and aimed it at himself. "What are you doing?" Nicole asked, frightened. "Recording for protection," Max explained. "Today is August 15th, 2023, 8:23 a.m. I, Max Grayson, am going with a girl named Nicole at her request to help her brother. She asked me herself." He stopped the recording. "If anyone asks, I'm a friend of your family, okay? Let's go." Nicole didn't move. She looked up at him, and there was so much distrust in her eyes that it made Max uneasy. How many times had adults promised to help and then not done it? "I really will help," he said more quietly. "I promise." Nicole nodded slowly. They walked in silence. He was tall, athletic, in a branded running outfit. She was small, quiet, in old sneakers that had once been white. People passing by glanced at them, and Max could feel those looks between his shoulder blades. On the subway, he asked, "Do you have a mom?" "I do," Nicole answered, staring at the tips of her sneakers. "She works a lot." "Where is she now?" The girl didn't answer. She just hunched her shoulders more, like she was trying to take up less space. Max didn't ask again. The bus rattled along, and he watched his reflection in the dark window. 32. Marketing director. Apartment, car, a bank account with more money in it than he could spend, and emptiness inside. Last night he'd stood by the panoramic window, staring at the city lights, thinking, "So this is success. This is what I worked 10 years for." Nicole tugged his sleeve. "We're here." The old neighborhood greeted them with buildings whose walls were peeling and a playground where the swings had been rusted out for years. Max stepped off and felt something tighten in his chest. Not pity, something else. Recognition. He'd grown up in a place like this too, in another city, just as gray and hopeless. Nicole pointed to an entry door with shattered glass, and Max followed her, already knowing he was about to see something that would make it impossible to go back to his old life. The apartment on the third floor met them with a careful, held breath kind of silence. Nicole unlocked the door with an old key on a string. The first thing Max noticed was how clean it was. Despite the old wallpaper, the cracked linoleum, and the crooked wardrobe, it was clean. The floor had been washed. A kid's jacket hung neatly on the hook, and beneath it stood little rubber rain boots. On the walls were children's drawings in homemade cardboard frames. A little house with smoke coming out of the chimney, a sun with stick-ray beams, 3 people holding hands. Max stopped at one drawing. There were 4 figures, and the tallest one was crossed out in red pencil. "Aiden drew that," Nicole said quietly. "After Dad. Back then, he still didn't talk well, but he drew. Mom wanted to take it down, but I asked her to leave it, so we'd remember." Max couldn't find anything to say. He just walked on. In the small room, a boy lay on the couch under a plaid blanket. His red hair was tangled on the pillow, and his freckled face looked almost translucent. He was sleeping, and in his sleep his lips moved as if he were chewing something. "He dreams about food," Nicole said, gently adjusting the blanket. "Every time he's hungry. He told me he dreams about hand pies like Mom used to bake, or soup." Her voice trembled, but she pressed her lips together and didn't cry. "When did he eat last?" "Yesterday morning. I cooked the oatmeal that was left. We split it." "And you?" Nicole looked away. "I ate a little." She was lying. Max could see it in the way her thin shoulders tensed, in the way she worried the hem of her shirt. She'd given her brother everything and gone a full day without food, or more. He went into the kitchen. Max opened a cabinet. Empty shelves. Only on the top one, half a loaf with mold and a jar with something dried up inside. In the cupboards, 3 plates, 2 mugs, a few forks. Empty boxes of rice and pasta, salt, half a box of tea. That was it. On the table, weighed down by a mug, lay a sheet of paper. Max unfolded it. An IOU, $150,000, a private lending company, and the interest was clearly predatory. "That was from Dad," Nicole said from the doorway. "He borrowed money. He wanted to start his own business, buy a truck, but he didn't get the chance. A drunk driver crossed into oncoming traffic." She said it in an even voice, like she was retelling a movie plot, not her own tragedy. "Where's your mom, Nicole?" Max asked, even though he already suspected the answer would be terrifying. "I don't know." Nicole walked to the window, looking out at the gray courtyard with the rusty swings. "She left for work 6 days ago in the morning. Said she'd be back that evening. She didn't come back. Her phone is off. I called her job. They said they don't know where she is, that she didn't come in." 6 days. 6 days 2 kids had been alone, with no food, no adults. Something boiled inside Max, not rage, but helplessness in the face of someone else's pain that you can't rewind. "Why didn't you tell anyone sooner? The neighbors, the police?" "I was scared." Nicole turned, and fear swirled in her gray eyes, ancient and animal. "My friend Daisy, they took her mom away because she drank. Daisy got sent to foster care. I visited her once. It's bad there. The older kids hit the little ones, the staff yells. Daisy cried and begged me to get her out." Her voice broke. "I don't want foster care. I don't want them to take Aiden. We're good. We'll sit quietly. We won't bother anyone. Just please, don't send us there." She started crying, quiet, choked, the way people cry when they're afraid of being heard. Max awkwardly put a hand on her shoulder. I'm not sending you to foster care, I promise. We're going to find your mom, and in the meantime, we're going to feed you. He opened a delivery app. Kids' meals, nuggets, fries, 2 milkshakes, 2 cheeseburgers, order placed. 20 minutes. Are you going to eat? Nicole asked, wiping her tears with her palm. I already ate breakfast, Max lied. He hadn't. While they waited, he stepped out into the hallway and called Ryan Miller. His friend picked up on the third ring, voice sleepy. Max, are you out of your mind? It's 9 in the morning. I'm off today. Ryan, I need serious help. Something in Max's tone snapped his friend awake. What happened? I found 2 kids who've been living alone for 6 days. Their mom's missing. I need to find her without getting Child Protective Services involved. Ryan was quiet, then let out a breath. Max, do you understand what you're stepping into? If anyone finds out you kept this from the authorities, I understand. But I gave the girl my word. She's 9, and she's more afraid of foster care than she is of being hungry. Another pause. Okay, give me the mother's info. I'll check hospital records and police logs, but not officially. If anything happens, I don't know you. Max gave him her name, age, neighborhood. Ryan promised he'd call back and hung up. Max went back into the apartment. Aiden was awake now, sitting on the couch, holding his sister tight, staring at Max with huge green eyes, wary, like a little animal watching a person with food. This is Uncle Max, Nicole introduced him. He's going to help us. Hi, Aiden. How are you? I'm hungry, the boy said in a quiet, guilty voice. Food's coming. Very soon. The delivery arrived 18 minutes later. The kids looked at the boxes like they were treasure. Nicole carefully set everything on the table, laid out napkins. Aiden reached for the nuggets, but held himself back, waiting for permission. Eat, Max said. They ate greedily, but tried not to show it. Nicole took small bites, chewed carefully. Aiden slipped fries into his mouth neatly, not crumbling anything. Max watched them trying to keep their dignity even while starving, and something inside him flipped over. These weren't just hungry kids. These were kids who'd been taught how to be decent people. Their mother, missing for 6 days, had put something important in them, something poverty couldn't wash away. While they ate, Max called someone he knew who worked at a home staffing agency. Andrew, I need a nanny, immediately. 2 kids, 9 and 4, reliable, experienced for a week, maybe longer. Max, you got kids now? Something like that. Can you find someone? Give me a couple hours. I'll call you back. Max sat down and looked at the children. Aiden finished his milkshake, leaving a white mustache above his lip. Nicole gathered crumbs from the table, folding them into a napkin. What happens next? She asked. I'm going to find your mom, Max said, and you'll stay with the nanny for now, and no foster care, deal? Nicole nodded, then stood up, walked over, and hugged him, awkward, kid-style, tight. Max froze. When was the last time anyone had hugged him just because, from a pure place? Thank you, she whispered. You're good. Max stayed quiet. He wasn't good. He just couldn't walk past them. And it turned out, those weren't the same thing. An hour and a half later, Nancy arrived, a woman around 58 with gray hair and a strict but kind face. Max met her in the hallway and laid out his cover story. A distant relative of the mother's, in town from another state for work, found out what was happening while looking for her. Nancy listened without a word, asked short questions. Max could tell she didn't fully believe it, but she wasn't pushing. There was some old pain living in her eyes. All right, she said finally. I'll stay with the kids, but if you hurt them, I won't. Max pulled out his wallet and counted out $300. Here's for the week. If you need more, tell me, and I'll have groceries delivered. Nancy took the money, counted it, tucked it into her bag. You're a strange relative. People don't usually hand over that kind of money. My fault for not coming around sooner. I'm trying to make it right. She was quiet, studying him, then nodded. Fine, but I won't let anyone mess with these kids. Max understood. She'd seen through him, but she was staying quiet, and he was grateful for that silence even more than for her agreeing to help. As he left, he looked back. Nicole stood in the doorway in her faded t-shirt, watching him go. Max waved to her. She waved back. He stepped outside, got into a taxi, and only then let himself breathe out. His hands were shaking. Inside him, everything was boiling. Fear, anger, despair, hope. He didn't know what he was doing, didn't know how this would end, but he knew one thing. There was no going back. His phone rang. Ryan. Max, I found her. His voice sounded muffled, like it was coming from underwater. She's at City Hospital. She was admitted the morning of August 9th. Traumatic brain injury. She got hit by a car in a crosswalk and the driver took off. Is she alive? Max asked, not recognizing his own voice. She's alive, but it's complicated. Partial retrograde amnesia. She doesn't remember the last few years. The doctors say her memory might come back or it might not. Stress, plus the injury caused it. Ryan paused. Max, it's worse. She didn't have any ID on her. They only figured out who she was the day before yesterday, when she woke up and could finally say her name. Thank you, Ryan. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. Just think before you go any deeper. You still have a chance to back out. Max hung up without answering. Back out? How? When he'd already promised a 9-year-old girl he wouldn't abandon her. When he'd watched a 4-year-old boy eat with that kind of desperate hunger. But first, he needed to deal with the mother's job. Max went to the business center on 5th Avenue, a 20-story glass tower where he'd been for meetings himself. He'd never once thought about who mopped the floors in those gleaming hallways, who wiped down the mirrors, who took out the trash. Invisible people, the ones you walk past without seeing. The cleaning company's office was in the basement, a cramped room with peeling walls and the sharp smell of bleach. Behind a desk sat a man around 45 with a heavy, flat stare. His badge read, Curtis Crow, Facilities Supervisor. Hi, Max said, pulling the door mostly closed. I'm here about your employee, Olivia Carter. Curtis didn't even look up from his monitor. Fired for no call, no show, hasn't been in for a week. She's in the hospital. She got hit by a car. Now Curtis looked at him, measuring, without much interest. And what do you want from me? You didn't try to find her. Curtis let out a short, contemptuous chuckle. Kid, we've got dozens of cleaners like her. One doesn't show, we hire another. It's low-skill labor. Max felt something suffocating flare inside him. He planted his hands on the desk and looked Curtis straight in the eyes. She has 2 kids. They sat at home alone for 6 days with no food because their mother was in the hospital unconscious, and nobody even bothered to ask where she was. Not my problem, Curtis said, leaning back and crossing his arms. I've got 120 people on staff. I can't babysit everyone. If you want to help, help. Max straightened up, his hands shaking. He wanted to grab this smug man by the collar, but he held himself back, turned, and walked out, slamming the door. In the basement hallway, he leaned against the wall, closed his eyes, and breathed deep. There it was, the truth. You're indispensable as long as you make money. But the second you end up at the bottom, the second you're the one mopping floors for $5 an hour, you're just disposable. One doesn't show, they hire another. Max pulled out his phone. Ryan, I need the hospital address, and I need to know if I can visit her. You can, but only close family or family friends, and even then with the doctor's approval. Who are you going to say you are? A family friend. Max, you're getting pulled in deeper and deeper. Just the address, please. Ryan sighed and gave it to him. The next few days turned into a routine. Max got up at 6, went for a run, not because he wanted to, but because he needed to burn off the tension. Then a shower, coffee on the move, and by 8, he was already at the kids' place. Nancy opened the door, nodded without a word. Not once did she ask who he really was. She just made breakfast, cleaned, helped Nicole get ready for school. September 1st was coming fast, and Max bought the girl everything she needed: a backpack, uniforms, notebooks, textbooks. Nicole accepted it silently and only said softly, "Mom will pay you back. She will." Max didn't argue. He just nodded. Aiden met him every morning with quiet happiness. He didn't run up, didn't shout. He just sat on the couch with a toy car and smiled. The first few days he called him Uncle Max, then just Max. One day, when they were building a garage out of cardboard boxes together, the boy suddenly asked, "Are you going to be our dad now?" Max froze. Nancy stopped in the kitchen. The silence stretched tight like a wire. "Why do you think that?" Max asked. "Well, dads come and play with their kids, and they buy them food, and you come and you play, and you buy food. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that the adult world doesn't work that way?" "I'm your friend," Max said finally. "A good friend who won't leave you, okay?" Aiden thought about it, then nodded. "Okay. Now I have a friend, Max." And he went right back to playing like nothing had happened. But Max saw the long, assessing look Nancy gave him from the kitchen. The attachment kept growing, and Max didn't want to, fight it. Every morning when Aiden smiled at him, every evening when Nicole showed him her drawings, something inside him answered back, something forgotten, buried under years of a successful but empty life, belonging to something real, alive, important. City Hospital met him with sterile corridors. A nurse walked him along quickly without looking back. "You're a family friend?" "Yes," Max lied. "Don't stay long. She needs rest. If she gets worked up, call me immediately." They stopped at a room with a sign, "Neurology, room 12." Max stepped inside slowly, like he was afraid to scare off something fragile. A woman sat on the bed by the window, propped against pillows. Dull blonde hair framed a pale face. A white bandage was wrapped tight around her head. Gray eyes, big, scared, looked at Max with such confusion that his breath caught. It was Olivia, Nicole and Aiden's mother, the woman who worked 2 jobs, read to her kids at night, baked the hand pies that the little red-headed boy dreamed about, and now she didn't remember what those kids looked like. "Hi, I'm Max Grayson. We're friends." "Do you remember me?" Olivia stared at him for a long time. There was a desperate effort in her eyes, like she was trying to pull something back from the dark, but her memory stayed silent, and tears slowly gathered. "No," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I don't remember so much. How do you forget years of your life?" "It's temporary," Max said gently. "Your memory will come back. It just takes time. And if it doesn't?" Her voice shook. "They told me I have children, but I don't remember their faces. What kind of mother am I?" Max took out his phone and opened photos. Nicole with her backpack, serious and focused. Aiden with a cardboard toy car, smiling, freckles everywhere. "Those are your kids. Nicole, she's 9, and Aiden, he's 4. Olivia took the phone with trembling hands and stared hungrily. Tears fell onto the screen. "They're so beautiful," she whispered. "The girl looks like me, and the boy is red-headed. Where did he get red hair?" "From their father." She went still, lifting eyes full of fear. "Where is my husband? Why hasn't he come?" Max took her hand and felt her cold, trembling fingers. "Olivia, your husband died 2 years ago. A car accident." She turned even paler, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think I remember that. Like through fog. His name was Victor. He died, and I was alone." "You're not alone," Max said. "You have friends. Me, for example." The door opened a crack. A woman in a white coat, around 50, stepped in. Dr. Karen Klein, neurology. I need to speak with you. Let's step outside. In the hallway by the window, the doctor turned to him. Olivia has partial retrograde amnesia due to the head injury and stress. The brain pushed away memories that caused severe pain. Her husband's death, financial trouble, loneliness. The impact to her head was the trigger. Her memory may return, partially or fully, in a week, in months, or it may not. She paused. The most important thing right now is no stress. No information about the kids being alone. That would cause guilt and panic. She needs stability, the sense that everything is under control. When will she be discharged? Max asked. A week to a week and a half, if there are no complications. She'll need care at home, rest, bed rest for the first few days. I'll arrange it. Dr. Karen Klein studied him. You're a good friend. Not many like that anymore. Max didn't answer. He wasn't a good friend. He was a liar who had climbed into someone else's life and started rewriting it. But it was too late to back out. Too many people depended on this lie. He went back into the room. Olivia sat hunched over his phone, studying the kids' photos. Tell me about them, she asked quietly. Tell me everything. Maybe it'll help me remember. Max spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. Nicole is very responsible, grown up for her age, and she draws really well. Aiden is cheerful, trusting, and he loves toy cars. You used to build garages out of cardboard boxes with him. Out of boxes, Olivia repeated, like she was feeling for a thread of memory. What does he like to eat? Hand pies. You baked him hand pies and he always asked for seconds. She smiled, faintly, but she smiled. I baked hand pies. That sounds like me. I think I remember the smell of yeast dough. See? Your memory is coming back. Olivia nodded, but the light in her eyes faded right away. Just fragments, like I'm looking at my life through broken glass. Max stayed at the hospital for more than an hour, talking about the children, making up details based on what he'd seen in their drawings, spinning a web of lies that grew thicker with every word. And he watched Olivia cling to every sentence, like it was a life preserver. When he got up to leave, she stopped him. Max, thank you. I don't know what I would do without you. He only nodded, not trusting his voice. On the 5th day, he brought her pajamas, simple, cotton, soft, a toiletry bag with shampoo and lotion, and a short story collection, because he'd seen a book like that on her shelf. You do too much for me, Olivia said. Just get better, Max answered. The kids are waiting for you at home. She pressed the book to her chest. People like you don't just show up in someone's life for no reason. Max stayed silent. If he told the truth, that he'd shown up by accident, that he'd come because a girl asked him for food in a park, the lie would collapse right now. Walking out of the hospital, he felt the weight on his chest. Guilt grew with every visit, every word, every grateful look in Olivia's eyes. But there was nowhere to back out. September 1st came warm, almost summer-like. The sun turned the asphalt gold, and the air was soaked with hope. All over the city, kids walked to school holding bouquets. And inside that familiar holiday rhythm, Max felt a strange symbolism in the moment. Today, Olivia was being discharged. He stood at the hospital entrance, nervous, even though he wouldn't admit it to himself. He adjusted his shirt collar. Who was he trying to look good for? A woman who didn't know who he really was. The doors swung open, and Olivia walked out, slowly, carefully. A nurse held her by the elbow, but Olivia politely slipped free and straightened up. She wore that same simple gray dress she'd been brought in wearing. Her hair was pulled into a ponytail, her face still pale, but alive now. She saw Max and smiled, shy, uncertain. Ready to go home? He asked. I don't know, she admitted honestly. I'm scared I won't be able to do it. That the kids will see I don't remember them. Max stopped, turned toward her, and did something he hadn't planned to do. He took her hand. Her fingers were cold, trembling in his palm. Olivia, you're their mom. That's what matters. Everything else will come back. She nodded and squeezed his hand back. They stood like that for a few seconds, two people tied together by a lie. But in that moment, under the September sun, the connection felt almost real. The drive took 40 minutes. Olivia sat in the passenger seat, watching the city slide by outside the window. Bright storefronts, crowds of people, billboards. It felt foreign, unfamiliar, like she hadn't lived here her whole life. My head knows this is my home, she said softly, but my heart doesn't feel it, like I'm watching someone else's life from the outside. Max couldn't think of anything to say, because it was true, and with every mile, the weight of the lie got heavier. The building's entryway hit them with that familiar damp smell. Max helped Olivia up to the third floor. At the door she stopped, staring at the peeling paint, the old doorbell, the doormat, and in her eyes was one clear thought. I lived here? Really? Max rang the bell. Footsteps sounded from inside, Nancy's voice, and the door swung open. But Olivia didn't even look at the nanny, because in the hallway, pressed against the wall, Nicole stood there. In her new school uniform, white ribbons tied into her braids, she stared at her mother with huge gray eyes. Beside her was Aiden in jeans and a bright t-shirt, barefoot, red hair mussed up. "Mom!" Aiden shouted and launched himself forward, small and fast. Olivia crouched and opened her arms, and the boy crashed into her with his whole body. She swayed, wrapped him up, breathed in the smell of his hair, whispering, "My boy, my good boy." Nicole stayed off to the side, not coming closer. Max saw her biting her lip, her hands clenched into fists. She was afraid to get her hopes up. "Nicole?" Olivia called, reaching out her free hand. "Come here, sweetheart." Nicole walked over slowly. And the girl who'd held herself together like an adult this whole time suddenly gave in. She pressed her face into her mom's shoulder and cried, bitter and desperate, pouring out all the fear that had piled up, all the pain, all the loneliness. Max turned away. He didn't belong in this picture. A stranger, a liar standing on the threshold of someone else's happiness. Nancy touched his shoulder. "I should go. You'll be okay?" "We'll be okay," Max promised. Nancy left, and Max stayed. He helped Olivia into the room and eased her onto the couch. The kids wouldn't let her out of their sight. Aiden climbed onto her lap. Nicole pressed in close. Olivia stroked their hair, kissed the tops of their heads, and there was such a mix of love and desperation in her eyes, it hurt to look at. "Tell me about yourselves," she asked softly. "Anything you want. I need to get to know you again." Aiden immediately started chattering about his toy cars, about the garage made from boxes, about how Max taught him to count. Nicole listened quietly, then added in a small voice, "I'm in 3rd grade. I like math and drawing, and I can make mac and cheese. You taught me." Olivia nodded, but Max could tell. She didn't remember the school, didn't remember teaching her daughter to cook. That evening, when the kids finally fell asleep, Aiden on the couch, holding onto his mom's hand like a lifeline, Nicole on a fold-out cot nearby. Olivia got up. She walked through the rooms slowly, studying every corner. She stopped at a photo on the wall, a wedding picture, her and a young man with a kind face. "That's my husband," she said, and her voice shook. "I remember his face, vaguely, like I saw him in a dream. He died, didn't he?" "Yes," Max said. 2 years ago, a car wreck. You loved him a lot." "I loved him," Olivia repeated. "And now I don't remember. How can you not remember the person you loved?" She cried, quiet, soundless tears. Max couldn't take it. He wrapped his arms around her carefully, the way a friend would. Olivia didn't pull away. She leaned into him, hid her face against his shoulder. Max stroked her hair, murmuring calming words, feeling his own heart splitting apart. Later, Olivia found the IOU on the table. $150,000, she whispered. Where did that come from? Why? Victor borrowed it, Max explained. He wanted to start his own business, but he didn't get the chance. The debt passed to you. I can't pay that back. I don't have a job, I don't have money. They'll take the kids. Olivia, breathe. Max took her hands and made her look at him. We'll figure it out. You're not alone. Why? It burst out of her. Why are you doing this? I don't remember you. I don't remember our friendship. People don't pay that much for kindness. Max stayed silent because he couldn't tell the truth. That at first, yes, it was pity. He'd seen a 9-year-old girl asking for food and couldn't walk past. But now it was something bigger. Attachment, responsibility, and something else he was afraid to say out loud. Because it's the right thing, he said finally. Because you shouldn't have to do this completely alone, and the kids shouldn't grow up knowing no one cares about them. Olivia nodded, even though her eyes still held disbelief mixed with gratitude. The next 2 weeks settled into a strange, almost family routine. Max came every evening after work. He brought groceries, cooked dinner with Olivia. She stood at the stove uncertainly, like she was holding a pan for the first time. They made soups, seared steaks, cooked pancakes. Olivia laughed when the pancakes came out lumpy, and Max laughed with her. In those moments, it felt real. He played cars with Aiden, built garages, read bedtime stories. The boy would fall asleep in his arms, and Max would carry him to the couch, tuck him under a blanket, kiss the top of his head. He helped Nicole with homework, multiplication and division problems. She picked everything up instantly, and Max felt proud of her like she was his own daughter. Olivia watched it all. She'd sit at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and look on as Max fussed over the kids. He could feel her gaze, warm, grateful, thoughtful, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. One evening, he brought fall clothes for the kids, jackets, sneakers, sweaters. Olivia looked at the bags and shook her head. Max, this is too much. I can't take it. I'm a family friend. Friends help. That's normal. No, she pushed back. That's not normal. Friends don't spend that much money, don't come every day, don't live someone else's life. Tell me the truth. Who are you to me? The question hung in the air. Max could have lied again, but there was so much pain in Olivia's eyes he couldn't. I'm the guy who couldn't walk past, he said honestly. The guy who saw your kids and couldn't leave them. I don't know who I was to you before, maybe nobody, but right now, I want to be someone you can lean on. Olivia nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest. Max didn't say anything, because he'd still lied. He hadn't said the main thing, that they hadn't known each other at all before the hospital. She couldn't handle that truth. Not yet. One day, Nicole asked, while Max was helping her with homework, Max, are you going to come forever? He looked up at her. I don't know, Nicole. I really don't know. But I want you to come, she said softly. I feel good when you're here, and Aiden, and Mom. I think she does too. Max couldn't find an answer. He just hugged the girl. She leaned into him trustingly, the way kids lean into parents. That night, when everyone was asleep, Max and Olivia sat in the kitchen with tea. Rain rumbled outside, drumming on the windowsill, making everything feel cozy. Tell me how we met, she asked. Maybe it'll help me remember. Max knew that question was coming. We met in the park about a year ago, he said. You were sitting by the fountain with the kids. Aiden was playing with a little car. Nicole was reading a book. I walked by, we started talking. About the kids, about life, about how hard it is to raise them alone. You were so strong, exhausted, but strong. We traded numbers and started seeing each other once in a while. I was just around. Olivia listened, trying to find even crumbs of that story in her memory. I feel like if I remembered, I wouldn't feel what I feel right now. Or you're making it up, she said quietly. Max went still. His heart hit so hard he thought she'd hear it, but Olivia was looking out the window at the rain. I feel the gaps. Like the story you're telling isn't completely mine, but I want to believe it, because otherwise I'm completely alone. And when you're near me, I feel calm. And that matters more than memory. Max closed his eyes. She knew. Not every detail, but she could feel the lie. And she was still choosing to believe. Olivia, he said, taking her hand. No matter what happens, I won't leave you. I won't leave the kids. That's true. The one true thing I can give you. Olivia looked at him for a long time, then nodded. Okay. Then let's live on that truth until there's another one. They sat there holding hands, listening to the rain. Two people tied together by a lie. But that night, with water whispering against the glass, the connection felt real. And it turned out that was enough, for now. Warm weather came at the end of September. Generous, unexpected. The sun turned the leaves gold, the air smelled like apples, and something faintly sad. Olivia suggested a picnic almost shyly, like she was afraid he'd say no. I was thinking, maybe we could go to the park, out into nature while it's still warm, she said, catching herself on the word all. And Max heard it. He heard it and felt something warm and painful spread through his chest. Family. He wasn't family. But when Olivia looked at him like that, hopeful, cautiously tender, he wanted to believe in the illusion. Saturday was warm. Max came early. The kids were already waiting outside. Aiden bounced in place from excitement, waving a kite. Nicole held a basket of food and smiled. Quiet, sincere. Olivia wore a simple light dress, her hair down, color in her cheeks. Max froze for a second, looking at her. She was beautiful, not the glossy beauty he'd been surrounded by before, but real, alive, the beauty of a tired woman who'd found a reason to smile again. The park greeted them with an even calm. Paths, ancient oaks, a pond reflecting the sky. They spread a blanket on the grass. The kids grabbed the kite and ran to launch it. Max watched them run, small figures against an endless sky, and thought, this is happiness, so simple you can miss it. They played badminton, awkward and funny, the rackets missing constantly. Max taught Aiden how to throw a ball. The boy threw with his whole body, and the ball went anywhere except where it was supposed to. But Aiden laughed, bright and loud. Max, will you be my coach? He asked, looking up with green eyes full of admiration. I will, Max promised, and his heart tightened. He didn't know if he could keep that promise. Nicole took pictures of them on her phone. Then she walked over and held it out. Look, it came out good. Max glanced. Him and Olivia sitting on the blanket, Aiden between them, all three laughing. A normal family photo, except they weren't a family. They were a lie wrapped in happy faces. Awesome, he said, slipping the phone away. You're a really good photographer, Nicole. Olivia watched Nicole run off, and there was pride in her eyes mixed with sadness. She's growing up so fast. I don't remember her little, like someone stole those years from me. They weren't stolen, just hidden, Max said. Your memory will come back. And if it doesn't? What kind of mother does that make me? Max took her hand without thinking. Her fingers were warm from the sun, trembling slightly. You're the best mother, Olivia. Because no matter what, you're here, you're fighting, you're not giving up. That matters more than any memory. Olivia looked at him for a long time, and he saw the disbelief in her eyes turn into something else, warmth, gratitude, and something that made his heart start beating faster. The kids ran to the pond to feed the ducks. Max and Olivia stayed on the blanket, alone in a silence full of everything they weren't saying. Tell me about Victor, Max asked. What do you remember? Olivia sighed and looked at the water. Not much, just fragments. I remember he was kind, he loved the kids, but he was a gambler, always coming up with schemes, always dreaming about getting rich, borrowed money, promised he'd pay it back, didn't make it. Her voice shook. I was mad at him for that, but I can't really be mad. He just wanted to give us a better life. You loved him, Max said, and it wasn't a question. I did, she nodded, but that was in another life, the one I don't remember. Now it feels like someone else's story. She turned to Max, and he saw tears in her eyes, not bitter ones, but light, accepting ones. Max, I don't remember our friendship, and you know what's the strangest part? I feel like if I did remember, I wouldn't feel what I feel right now. What do you feel? Max asked quietly, and the question scared him the moment it left his mouth. Gratitude, calm, safety, and also, she paused. You're the only one who didn't leave us. I feel like you matter to me. A lot. Max didn't breathe. He should have pulled back, should have told the truth. But there was so much trust in her eyes, so much tenderness, that the truth would have killed all of it. Olivia, he started, but she stopped him, pressing her fingers to his lips. Don't say anything. Just stay here. Right now. With me. And Max couldn't take it anymore. He pulled her toward him slowly, giving her time to lean away. But she didn't. Their lips met carefully, gently, like people who are afraid of breaking something fragile. The kiss was short, but it held everything, all the pain, all the tenderness, all the hopelessness of their situation. Max thought, this is wrong, this is a lie. But if it was a lie, why did it hurt so much? Olivia pulled back first, dropping her eyes, her cheeks flushed. I'm sorry, Max whispered. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. She looked up at him. I just need time to understand what I'm feeling. Mom, Max, look, the duck took the bread right out of my hand. Aiden came running at them, waving his arms. The moment shattered. The kids were back, and Olivia and Max shifted away from each other and forced on smiles. But something had changed forever. They drove back in silence. The kids dozed in the back seat. At the building entrance, Olivia lingered while Nicole led Aiden upstairs. Thank you for today. It was a good day. Yeah, Max agreed. A good day. See you tomorrow? See you. She headed inside. Max watched her until the door closed. Then he drove home, to the empty apartment where no one was waiting, where the silence pressed against his ears, where the floor-to-ceiling windows showed a night city that felt foreign and indifferent. He dropped onto the couch and buried his face in his hands. In love. He was in love with a woman who didn't know who he really was, who had kissed him thinking she was kissing a friend, not a liar. His phone rang. Ryan. So, how's it going? Bad. Really bad. Talk to me, Max told him. You fell in love, Ryan said flatly. Congrats. Now you're completely screwed. Thanks for the support. Max, I told you, the longer you drag it out, the worse it's gonna hurt. Tell her the truth. Now, while there's still time. It's already too late. If I tell her now, she'll hate me. But that's what this is. No, the feelings are real. The caring is real. Only the beginning was a lie. The foundation of your relationship is a lie. How long do you think the building will stand? Max was quiet. When Olivia gets stronger, when her memory comes back, then I'll tell her. And if it doesn't come back, you gonna live in a lie forever? Max didn't have an answer. The idea of living with Olivia on top of a con was unbearable, but life without her, without the kids, was worse. I can't lose her, he whispered. Ryan, I can't. Then get ready to lose everything. The truth always comes out. Ryan hung up, and Max was alone. He thought about Olivia, about how Aiden had started calling him just Max, and how Nicole had asked if he'd be coming forever. He wanted to come forever. He wanted to be part of that family. But the truth stood between him and that happiness. Relentless, merciless. Sooner or later, it would show. Max lay down on the couch without even changing, closed his eyes. The only answer was silence. Sleep came for Olivia on the night of October 10th, not quietly, not gently, but crashing down like an avalanche. She saw that morning again. Gray sky, cool air. She was rushing. She was always rushing, because being late meant losing money. Her bag on her shoulder, old shoes, the crosswalk, the green light. She stepped onto the asphalt, and then the scream of brakes, so sharp it felt like it tore reality open. The impact, darkness, pain rolling over her like a wave, and then nothing. Olivia jolted awake in a cold sweat, gasping. Her heart was pounding like it was trying to break out of her chest. She sat up in bed, wrapping her arms around herself, trying to stop the shaking. And then the memory hit. No drops, no fragments, but a flood that swept everything in its path. She remembered. She remembered the last year, how she'd worked as a cleaner in the business center, how she came home at 11 at night when the kids were already asleep, how she counted every cent, how she cried into her pillow at night so Nicole wouldn't hear, the debt, $150,000, growing like a tumor, the constant choking fear that she wouldn't make it, that they'd take the kids. And she remembered that there had been no Max in her life. Olivia got up and went into the kitchen. Her hands shook as she flicked on the light. She grabbed her phone and found the number for Erica Hayes, a former co-worker. 5 in the morning. Too early, but she couldn't wait. Erica answered, groggy and annoyed. Hello? Who is this? Erica, it's Olivia. I'm sorry it's so early. Oh my God, you're alive. We thought you disappeared. What happened? I ended up in the hospital. An accident. Olivia squeezed the phone so hard her fingers ached. Tell me, did I ever mention a man named Max? Did I say I had a friend who was helping me? Silence. No, Olivia. You barely talked about your personal life at all. Just the kids sometimes. Olivia ended the call, and the phone slipped from her hands onto the table. So that was it. There was no Max. The whole story about the park, about meeting, about friendship, lies. A made-up story. He'd used her helplessness, her lost memory to... What? Why? For what? She remembered the kiss in the park, remembered thinking, finally, I'm not alone. And it had all been built on a lie. Rage rose inside her, hot, scalding. How dare he? How dare he break into her life, pretend to be a friend, manipulate her kids, her feelings. She had trusted him, fallen for him, and he... Olivia covered her face with her hands and cried, out of anger, humiliation, the pain of betrayal. Max came that evening like always, carrying a bag of groceries, clueless. He rang the bell. Olivia opened the door. He saw her face, cold, stone still, and froze. Olivia, what happened? Come in, she said evenly. We need to talk. Max stepped in and set the bag down. The kids ran out. Aiden with a toy car, Nicole with a book. Max! The boy brightened, but Olivia stopped him. Kids, go to your room, now. Her tone didn't allow arguments. Nicole took her brother's hand and led him away. The door shut. Olivia turned back to Max, and in her eyes, he saw what he'd been afraid of this whole time. You remembered, he whispered. I remembered, she nodded. Everything, every detail. And you know what's the most interesting part? You weren't in my life, at all. No friend Max, no meeting in the park, no help, nothing. So who are you really? Max stood there pale, opened his mouth, closed it, searching for words. It's not that simple to explain. Then try. Olivia's voice was icy. You get one shot. Either you tell me the truth right now, or you leave and you never come near my children again. Max exhaled. I wasn't your friend. We didn't meet in the park a year ago. I met Nicole on August 15th. She asked me for help in the park. She said her brother was hungry, that her mom hadn't come home. I went with her. I saw the kids had been alone for 6 days. I found you through someone I know. You were in the hospital without your memory. The doctor said, no stress, and I lied that we were friends because I was scared of hurting your health. Olivia listened, and with every word her face turned more and more like stone. You had no right, she said quietly, but there was so much fury in that quiet that Max took a step back. You used my children, my helplessness, my memory loss to what, Max? What were you doing it for? For you, he shouted. For the kids. I wanted to help. Help? Olivia laughed, bitterly, without a trace of humor. You broke into my life like a thief. You stole my trust, manipulated me. You made me believe a made-up story. You made me fall in love with you. She shouted the last words, her voice cracking. Tears ran down her cheeks. Olivia, I'm sorry. Max stepped toward her, but she flinched away. Don't come closer. I love you, Max said, desperate. I love your kids. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted to help. And then I got attached. I fell in love. I couldn't leave. Love isn't built on lies. Do you understand that? Everything between us was fake. No. Max shook his head. The feelings were real. The caring was real. Everything I did after that day in the hospital, I meant it. But it started with a lie, Olivia cut him off, which means everything else too. Leave, Max. He stood there shattered, empty, then slowly turned toward the door. And then the kids burst out of the room. Nicole with tear-streaked eyes, Aiden sobbing. Max, don't go. The boy threw himself at him, wrapped his arms around Max's leg. Don't go, Daddy. Max froze. He crouched and hugged Aiden tight, pulled him close. I have to, buddy. Nicole stepped up and hugged him from behind. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for saving us. You're a good man, Max. Max couldn't hold it in. He cried, quiet, soundless. He hugged the kids, kissed the tops of their heads, whispering, Be happy. Olivia stood in the doorway, watching, and in her eyes anger and pity fought each other. She came over, took the kids by the hands. Come on. They didn't want to let him go, but she led them away. Max was left alone in the hallway. He stood up, wiped his tears, and walked out. He got into his car and just sat there with his forehead against the steering wheel, unable to start the engine. He'd lost her, lost all of them. A week dragged by like an eternity. Max went to work, but he couldn't focus. He nodded through meetings without hearing a word. In the mornings, he went for a run. The same 7 miles, the same park. But there was no joy, only the mechanical movement of his legs and emptiness inside. Every time he ran past the fountain where he'd met Nicole, he slowed down. Remembered. Ryan came by, tried to comfort him. Give her time, Max. It's shock. It'll pass. It won't. I betrayed her trust. You saved her kids. That means something. It does, Max agreed, but it's not enough. Olivia managed on her own. She got a job as a bookkeeper at a small company. Pay wasn't great, but it was hers. She came home exhausted, collapsed on the couch. The kids played quietly nearby, afraid to disturb her. Aiden asked every day, Mom, where's Max? Why doesn't he come? Olivia didn't know what to say. She told him Max was busy. The boy didn't believe her. He cried at night, calling for him, and Olivia sat beside him, stroking his hair, barely holding back her own tears. Nicole didn't ask. She just got quieter, sadder. School started slipping. One day her teacher called. Your daughter's having problems. She doesn't pay attention in class. She isn't doing her homework. We'll handle it, Olivia said, and hung up. She looked at the kids and saw how much they missed him, and she remembered how Max played with Aiden, how he helped Nicole with homework, how he stood beside her in the kitchen. His care, his patience, his love, real, even if it started with a lie. On October 20th, Nicole brought home a drawing from school. The assignment was simple: draw your family. Olivia unfolded the paper and froze. There were 4 figures: Olivia herself, Nicole and Aiden on either side, and a man next to her, tall, in jeans and a button-down shirt. Above them, in a child's handwriting, "My family." "That's Max," Nicole explained quietly. "I drew him because he's part of us, even if he isn't here." Olivia stared at the drawing, tears sliding down her cheeks. The kids saw Max as a father, as part of their family. And it didn't matter how he'd entered their lives. What mattered was that he was there, that he cared, that he loved. She remembered his words: "I love you. I love your kids." He could have left at any moment. He could have called the police on day 1, handed the kids over to the system, and forgotten them. But he didn't. He took responsibility for someone else's children, someone else's family. "You only do that out of love." Olivia picked up her phone, found Max's number, and called. The rings stretched on forever. "Hello?" His voice was careful, guarded. "Max, it's Olivia. Come over. We need to talk." He got there 20 minutes later. From the window, she watched him step out of his car and walk toward the building, slow and heavy. She opened the door before he could ring. He stood in the doorway, drawn, dark circles under his eyes, lost. "Come in." Max went into the kitchen. The kids were asleep. Olivia had put them to bed early. They sat across from each other, and silence stretched between them like a wire. "I forgave you," Olivia said, and Max flinched. "What?" "I forgave you. It took me a week to understand. You lied about the past, that's true. But everything between us after that was real. Your care, your love for the kids. You can't fake that. You can't act that." She took his hand. "You saved my children, Max. They could have died of hunger or ended up in foster care. But you didn't walk past. You gave us hope. I want to be with you." Max lifted his eyes to her. "Not out of pity, not out of obligation. Because you're my family, the only real family I've ever had." "Then be." Olivia smiled through tears. "But now, no lies. Let's start over, with a clean slate. Deal?" "Deal," Max said. "I promise." The bedroom door flew open. Aiden and Nicole stood in the doorway, sleepy, messy-haired. They hadn't been sleeping. They'd heard everything. "Max!" Aiden ran to him, and Max scooped the boy up and held him tight. "Daddy's back!" Aiden yelled, laughing and crying at the same time. Nicole walked up slowly and wrapped her arms around Max's neck. "Forever now?" she asked softly. Max looked at Olivia. She nodded, firm, no doubt. "Forever," he promised. And in that moment, in the kitchen of that old apartment, under the dim light of a single lamp, a real family was born. Not by blood, not by paperwork, by love that made it through lies, pain, and forgiveness. They rang in the new year at home, the same apartment, for now, until better times. But now it was dressed in garlands, twinkling lights, a tree in the corner that Max and the kids decorated together. Presents sat under it in shiny wrapping with bows. Max helped Olivia pay off the debt and get a solid job, not at his company, but with people he knew, where she could work as an equal, without feeling dependent. She earned her own paycheck, and for the first time in years, felt like she could breathe freely. The clock struck midnight. Outside, fireworks exploded, painting the sky in green, red, and gold bursts. The kids watched the window in awe. "To us," Olivia said, lifting her glass. "To family," Max added. They took a sip, and then Max dropped to one knee. Olivia froze. The kids went quiet, watching with wide eyes. Max pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, modest, gold. "Olivia, I know I started wrong. I know I lied, but I want to live my whole life with you honestly. Will you be my wife?" Olivia looked at him, tears running down her cheeks. She held out her hand. Max slid the ring on. It fit perfectly. "Yes," she whispered. The kids screamed with joy and threw their arms around both of them. Aiden laughed, Nicole cried and smiled at the same time. The four of them stood there hugging under the blinking lights, with fireworks booming outside the window. And in that moment, in that old apartment that smelled like clementines and pine branches, there was happiness. Real, hard-won, earned. Happiness didn't come to Max when he went looking for it in empty dates and expensive things. It came when he stopped thinking only about himself, when he reached out to a 9-year-old girl asking for help, when he chose to stay instead of leaving, when he loved someone else's children like they were his own and wasn't afraid of being rejected for the right to be close. And on New Year's night, under a sky lit up with color, Max understood. This was real life. Not in skyscrapers, not in an office with panoramic windows, but here, in the arms of a family he found by accident and loved forever. If this story touched your heart, hit like. It helps other people find it too, and maybe see their own lives a little differently. Share this story with your friends. Maybe someone you care about really needs to believe right now that happiness is possible even after the hardest trials. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new stories about real people, real feelings, and real life. Always more complicated and more beautiful than any fiction. Thank you for staying with us to the end. Take care of the people close to you, and don't be afraid to reach out a helping hand. Sometimes that's exactly what changes everything.